And so that's it. The 2021 F1 season is officially over. And it all ended off relatively close to how it all started, with controversies and a lot of dramatic racing. The race came down to the last lap and a lot of mixed opinions on how that decision came to be, but evidently we still have to cover the whole first half of this race and everything leading up to that exact moment. Cass, what stood out to you in this first half? How'd you score it?
I feel like it's quite symbolic that we immediately got our first little taste of drama on the opening lap. Of course, I am talking about that turn 7 incident. Some people saying that Max purposely ran Lewis wide, despite the fact he did keep within the white line, and then other controversy because Hamilton had to cut the corner. Did he gain an unfair advantage? Did he give that gap back? What I do think, though, is that it warranted an investigation, at the very least. Whether he would have had to give it back or not, I think it's something they should have investigated, just purely based on consistency. And Hamilton looked like he was going to just fly away with it. He had so much raw race pace, and it just seems like he was utilizing those medium tires to their full potential. And it wasn't long before he already had built up like a 5-second gap on the rest of the field, and it was only growing.
It was at this point Red Bull lost the advantage, so it was now a wait to see what they would pull out of their strategy bag to sort of shake it up a bit.
And we saw that with Max pitting pretty early for hards. And I didn't really know where it was going to go from here at that point. I thought maybe this is a last-ditch effort, but then Mercedes covered off the undercut so quickly that it kind of got to a standstill where they really looked unstoppable out there.
A funny moment for me in the first half was when Max was leaving the pit lane exit and Leclerc just, I guess, got distracted and just zipped by on the camera, managed to get back on the track, but it brought out some good moves between him and Tsunoda going back and forth. And so far up until this point, we haven't seen all that much engaging wheel-to-wheel as promised racing with this new circuit layout. I can't tell if it improved it, if it didn't change, or if it got worse. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. There is also a poll there to our community tab. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say.
We did, however, see an incredible battle between Checo and Lewis. Oh my god, that was such exciting, riveting racing. There were sparks flying. They were going all over the place. It honestly was, in my opinion, one of the best battles of the season. I'm at a loss for words. It was beautiful. They were going back and forth, and every time that you thought Perez was down, no, he'd come back fighting, and then Lewis would cut around, and amazing stuff.
Hats off to Perez. I thought it was done after the first pass, but he kept coming back. And he slowed him down so much, the gap came down to 1 second, and you thought, maybe this is the chance where Max can get past.
Even though it didn't actually benefit Max all that much, because Lewis, being Lewis, increased the gap as soon as he was let off into clean air, it was still so exciting to see that maybe, just for a moment, we were going to get another battle between these three. It was so good. Honestly, in my opinion, probably one of the highlights of the race.
But other than that, that pretty much encompasses the first half of this race. So how would we score it, Cass?
I scored my excitement in the first half at a 6 because there were some good moments, but there were also a lot of really dull laps with absolutely nothing going on. In terms of racing, I scored it a 7. That is entirely because of Checo, because other than that, not much. Drama, I also scored a 6 because there was that little tidbit where you were wondering when Max got a penalty, would Lewis be forced to give the position back? Other than that, not much other than Kimi and George both retiring back to back. What an unfortunate way to end George's last race with Williams and Kimi's last Formula One race ever. So that brings my score to a 6.3, gonna bump that down to a 6.25.
I'm in the similar boat to you. My excitement was at a 6. The first lap, I was engaged with what's happening. Are we going to get some sort of penalty or not? In terms of the racing, all acquainted to Checo's defending. We did see a few battles from Vettel and Stroll going at it, and Tsunoda and Leclerc. So I also scored that a 6. And in drama, a 6 as well, just for that first lap. Putting my total first half at a 6, of course.
And as we kicked off the second half of this race, it immediately started with another DNF. You had Gio suddenly going super slowly, he pulls off to the side of the road and turns off his car. Really bad day for the Alphas. Really bad day for Gio as well. This is also his last race in Formula One. I don't know what happened there, but You hate to see it. And then, of course, as we're taking care of Gio's car, we are sat here wondering, is it going to be a full-blown safety car? Is it going to be a VSC? It does end up being a VSC, but something that I really did not like was Toto coming on the radio telling Michael Massey that this can't be a full safety car. I'm not okay with this trend of teams trying to interfere with some of these safety decisions. There were marshals on track.
I think they were just trying to give their 2 cents following last race in Jeddah, where it suddenly became a red flag. They wanted to just throw it in there, but yeah, not a great look.
Overall, like, you just cannot be bargaining. You can't be bargaining. Give your 2 cents, that's totally fine. But saying, no, we can't have this, it just rubs me the wrong way.
And the reason why Toto was so adamant about this was because both Red Bulls came in under the virtual safety car to switch to some new, fresh, hard compound tires.
Red Bull took a lot of risks today, I'll give them that. But when you are in second position, you do have that luxury of being able to react instead of being the ones that have to make that 50-50 call.
Yeah, there was lots of chances for Lewis and his team to react, but they chose track position as a priority rather than keeping it safe and bringing him back in.
I likely may have done the same thing. If I were in their shoes, track position, especially at a track like this, is so important. And especially knowing Lewis's caliber and skill, I feel like sometimes Mercedes can get away with testing him and putting him through some harder strategic decisions because he has the capabilities to pull them off.
But the VSC ending now, it's now Red Bull on the charge, trying to catch up to Hamilton. The gap is about 17 seconds, and they're predicting he needs to shave off 0.8 every lap to catch up.
And that was not happening. Yes, Max was going quicker, but overall, he still didn't have the pace, especially in the second sector. He was shaving off a little bit every lap, but nowhere near enough to be able to completely close that gap with enough laps left for real wheel-to-wheel racing.
To give reference, by lap 50 with only 8 laps left, he still had 11 seconds to go. They pulled Christian Horner in on the radio to ask, what do you do in this sort of situation? And he said, we basically have to pray to the race gods for a miracle.
And that came in the form of Nicholas Latifi.
Latifi was in the midst of a battle with Mick Schumacher when he lost the rear on turn 17, colliding with the barrier, and this time we knew with this kind of crash, a safety car was coming out. But there was only 4 laps left in this race. Were they going to clear it up in time?
At this point, Max jumps into the pits, trying to basically cover off any risk of if they go green light racing again, he can have the advantage. But there was also a lot of speculation of whether this would just simply end under a safety car.
And now here we go, into the controversial title deciding moment of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
First, we hear that overlapped cars will not be permitted to overtake. Red Bull are immediately on the radio saying, what the hell, why? And then we get another message saying, oh, never mind. No, cars are allowed to unlap themselves, but only certain ones, not the whole grid. And then Mercedes, as a result, obviously come on the radio to say, what the hell, why?
When we first saw that message where lapped cars wouldn't be able to unlap themselves, there was several cars in between the two of them, and I didn't think Max really had enough time to at least even put up a fight against Lewis.
Unfortunately, we will never know because the FIA went in the complete opposite direction, kind of bent the rules a little bit. Just a bit. Yeah, all of a sudden, it is Max on fresh tires, pulling right up beside Hamilton. Oh, was there potentially an overtake? That got dismissed. So much drama. For the last few minutes, my heart was about to burst out of my chest at this point, and all of a sudden, we get the green flag.
One thing, they're letting them by. Next thing you know, safety car is ending that same lap.
I'm not surprised that there's so much controversy around this. I mean, it drastically affected the outcome of this championship, and we've been seeing it throughout the entire season of just inconsistencies and things not being looked at fairly, and teams pushing the rules, the FIA pushing the rules. So it kind of was a catalyst for this entire season that it would end up coming down to the final lap on almost sheer controversy.
If I'm being honest, I'm favoring a title deciding race to be decided not behind a safety car. However, leaving only 1 lap left feels a little odd. I would be more in favor if, let's say, the laps behind the safety car were banked and re-put on at the end of the race, similar to what they do in IndyCar. It's just another question on if they're going to reshape these rules coming next season. because it definitely looks like something that they're going to have to look at.
And the thing that I'm so discouraged about is that today should have been a day of celebration. We were either going to be celebrating someone winning a historic 8th World Championship or someone winning their very first. Regardless, it would have been exciting. It should have been thrilling. It should have been, the final countdown. But now it just kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth because at the end of the day, neither Max nor Lewis did anything wrong in this scenario, but one walks away a winner and one walks away a loser. And you kind of have to, check your personal bias, ask yourself here, if the roles were reversed, would you still feel the same way that you do right now? My main takeaway from all this is that these decisions and these inconsistencies from the FIA are overall bad for the sport.
Taking it back, though, to that last lap, it was a very thrilling last lap. You had Hamilton take the lead into turn 1, Max making some good gains, and does what Max Verstappen does. He sees a gap, he goes for it. It's the last lap of the season. He's going to have to, and he pulls it off. But then we had 2 long straights. I was still unsure if he was going to hold it off because that Mercedes was quick.
And as Max crosses the finish line to win his first ever World Drivers' Championship, emotions were running high. The adrenaline was still there. I think we were honestly both in shock for quite a few hours post-race to digest everything that we had just seen. But I think this really just goes to show how unpredictable racing can be.
I have to give credit, though, to Hamilton. Although he lost, he was very respectful to Max. He was there on the podium. He saw him after the race, so that was also very great to see at the end of the day.
Super classy from him. Look, I'm still 100% convinced that Hamilton will absolutely win an 8th championship before he retires. He's honestly just too talented not to. So amazing display of sportsmanship between the two of them today.
And with that concludes the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But when we look at scoring the second half, and with that last lap of insanity, how would you rate it?
I don't know if people are going to expect these scores, but I actually scored my excitement pretty much on par at a 7. Once again, because I have to look at the entirety of the second half. Okay, yes, that last lap was super exciting and unnerving and engaging, but there's a whole second half, okay? I scored my racing at a 5, which is mostly because there was an overall lack of action. You had some stuff between Valtteri and Leclerc, Pierre and the Alpines, and then of course that final lap, but it just kind of felt overshadowed by everything else going on in the race, so it just didn't seem as memorable as the quality of racing that we got in that first half. As for drama, I scored it at a 9 because, let's be honest, that final few laps was by far one of the most dramatic things we've had all season. So that puts my second half at a 7.
I was on the same level of excitement as you. I put it at a 7. I had waves of, are they going to be able to fight each other when Max was back on the charge? And of course with that last lap. And in terms of the racing, I did score it a 7. I brought it up from the first half. We did get a bit more action in the midfield between the AlphaTauris and the Alpines. McLaren and Ferrari were going back and forth, although it wasn't for a championship deciding spot. I mean, you even had Sainz come out with a P3 in this race. Some great battles going on. And in terms of the drama, I also scored that at a 9. That last lap was chaotic. You also had Checo ending up retiring the car out of nowhere. So when you combine my scores together, it comes out to a 7.6. I'm going to bring that up though to a 7.75 because this was all happening for a championship deciding race. So for the last race to put on our board here, when you combine both of our scores together, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix of 2021 comes out to a total score of a 6.75. Here are the results of the 2021 championship season. What are your thoughts on the season as a whole? Be sure to let us know down in those comments. This season for sure is going to go down in the history books. So chaotic, we'll remember it for years to come.
We want to extend a massive congratulations to Max Verstappen. A phenomenal season, so many impressive drives. As for Lewis, the epitome of never giving up. He was down so many times, behind in the points, and he just consistently kept coming back. I really think he should be proud of himself too, and my God, are we excited for 2022.
It's going to be really fun looking back at the predictions that we made at the start of the season. How many times were we right, or were we absolutely wrong? A video soon to come. What an absolutely stellar season to have reviewed. 22 amazing races, minus Belgium, of course. But here we are at a closing chapter of our series of race reviews.
And with this closing chapter, this marks our final race review. After 2 seasons of incredible races, giving our opinions, we've decided to move on from this era in our channel.
But that doesn't mean the content is gonna end there. There is still gonna be plenty of new videos to come. We're just gonna be shifting our focus.
It's really important to us to be making high quality videos. We just want to shift in a new direction and experiment with some new formats.
We want to thank you, the viewers, whether you joined us on our first race review, have been following the series all the way through this season, or if you just popped in on the controversial race to get our opinion. Once again, we thank you all for your support and engagement, and with that, cheers. And we will catch you in our next video.